Astronauts to the moon.
Ignition sequence start. 3, 2, 1.
Houston, we have a problem.
Liftoff. We have a liftoff. We copy you on the ground. You got a bunch of guys about to turn blue.
What you're seeing here is a mirage.
What's going on, everyone? It's Jeranism back with another video for you today. This video is a response to Sergey Ryazansky. This Russian cosmonaut recently commented on the Flat Earth, asking how could anyone possibly believe this bullshit. So, Sergey, let me shed some light on it for you. First off, next to you here in this article is a painting of Earth. It is a painting. So you're off to a good start, guy. Let's talk about some reasons why people question the space agencies. Starting with the stars that we can see from space or we can't see from space. Do tell. Where are these stars exactly? I guess you could just easily look through your telescope there on the ISS. I mean, imagine, no atmosphere. You should have the absolute best view of Mars, Saturn, Jupiter. But you guys don't even have a telescope up there. Pretty sure you're too busy growing lettuce for the first time, for the 12th time. Don't even have a telescope. How long have you guys been in orbit? 19 years. 19 years, $150 billion plus, and you've provided what for humanity? Zip, zero, zilch. Sergey, tell me this. One of the often forgotten details of why people can believe that perhaps the Earth is flat, and perhaps you all are deceiving the world, is this. 19 years you've been in orbit. 19 years in orbit of the Earth, and not once, listen carefully folks, not one time has NASA or Roscosmos provided the people of Earth a 24-hour live stream of the Earth from space. Say what? Yes. And don't believe all the little fanboys that will come into the comments dropping links to 15-minute segments on repeat on YouTube or links to channels that have spliced clips together. Those are not 24/7 live streams. They are called lie streams. Don't get me wrong. If you do the kind of research that Globers do, you can find tons of places that say NASA has 24/7 live streams, even at nasa.gov. They claim here in 2014 that they're going to start providing 24/7 live streams from the ISS. However, if you just do the research yourself, you can go to Ustream. NASA has 2 channels, and neither one of those channels goes longer than an hour before they cut the transmission because they're on the dark side of Earth. That's hilarious. I mean, come on. You figured out how to get Voyager 1 and Voyager 2 to communicate with Earth from 13 billion miles, but you haven't quite figured out that live video feed from the dark side of the Earth yet. I guess you guys have never heard of these satellites you say exist. Well, newsflash, Sergey, we actually do live streaming from Earth, even if it's on the dark side. So you might want to talk to somebody down here. They can figure it out. Also, I can make a phone call 12,000 miles and there is no delay. And you clowns from 250 miles up have a 5-second delay? That doesn't seem right. I mean, they had a 1.5-second delay from the moon. They're 240,000 miles away, and you have a 5-second delay from 250 miles? It just doesn't seem right. And how can it be that during your interviews, which are always with children, do you never get interrupted by the blue screen, which can be seen every 30 minutes when watching the live stream from the cameras outside? Can the cameras inside provide footage when on the dark side of the Earth, but not the ones on the outside? Oh, and why are you astronauts, who should be very sharp, only ever given pre-scripted questions from children? Let's watch here as Peggy Whitson reads every single question and answer ahead of time, and listen to the questions from these little children, asking about career goals and using words like citizens and other questions that have been obviously given to them to specifically ask. We wouldn't want the scientist astronaut Peggy to get stumped by a hard question from a second grader, now would we? And even with questions she already knows, her answers could have been given by anyone. I mean, is this really the cream of the crop? Now let's watch her read.
What would you be if you were not an astronaut?
I think if I weren't an astronaut, I would still be working at NASA. I love NASA.
What was your most memorable space experience?
Well, living up here every day is actually an incredibly memorable experience.
How did it feel to make history and become the first woman commander of an expedition?
Well, in many ways, it was never something that I had necessarily planned on for a long time.
So as you can see, she's clearly reading every single question or answer, and I'm sure that girl just came up with the question of how did it feel to make history and become the first female leader of an expedition. And I'm sure this next child also came up with this question.
What were the keys to reaching your career goals?
I think that determination and work ethic, I think, were key for me. I had to study really hard in school to do well, but that paid off, that all the studying paid off for me. So I think determination and work ethic are extremely important.
How does the food you grow in space taste differently from Earth?
That's a good question. We've grown a couple of different things up here in space. When I got here, Shane was already growing some lettuce.
When do you think civilians begin to live in space?
Actually, that's a really good question. And
Did that one stump you, Peggy? Okay. Now listen to this answer for the question of what's the most beautiful thing you've seen from the ISS. This is typical indoctrination. It's the point that needs to be hammered home to these children. Here she goes.
To me, I think the most beautiful thing about our planet is looking at the limb of the Earth, the curve of the Earth that we can see from our viewpoint, especially at sunrise and sunset. It is an amazing time.
What is your favorite book and why?
I think, growing up, my favorite book was Illusions by Richard Bach.
Illusions. Her favorite book is Illusions. So I hope you're starting to see why people are entertaining the idea of a flat Earth. Let's go back a little bit earlier when I asked you about the stars. Can we or can't we see them from space? I mean, being that we cannot get the answers ourselves, we need you, the astronauts, who are paid by us to tell us the truth. And here's something that no one seems to understand. In space exploration, which is funded by the people of the world, and where it is not possible to have independent witnesses of the actual events, we as people have every right to expect the record to be 100% genuine, honestly portrayed, and honestly represented. So I ask you again, can we see stars in space? Let's ask some astronauts.
Whilst
From
in
Mark
space,
Cameron. This is from Mark Cameron.
Whilst in space, have you ever looked away from Earth into the black void?
Yeah.
All
because
the
you can
time.
see.
Yeah,
Because you can see the stars.
Oh yeah.
And pretty much all the time you can see the stars.
Yeah. It's not a
which is
black
cool
void.
thing.
I mean, it's black, but there's all kinds of little polka dots.
There's all the stars there, and the cool thing is about it, you can see it during the day.
Yeah, you can, and there's more than stars. You can see planets. You can
Right.
see moons.
You see the gas Magellan clouds of the Milky
you
Way
see
galaxy.
the Magellanic Clouds.
Magellanic. See, I was.
Yeah.
All right, interesting. So we can see stars from the day side or the night side of Earth. Got
We
you.
went up, and when you're in space and you're looking into deep space and you're on the sun side of the orbit, the sunlight washes out all the starlight, so you can't see any stars, just like here on Earth. But then when you look out into deep space away from the sun, it's the darkest black you can imagine, right? And so what happens is you really lose your depth perception. You can't tell if something's close by or far away, and so
all
Because
the
you
time.
can see,
Yeah,
because you can see the stars.
Oh yeah.
And pretty much all the time you can see the stars.
Yeah. It's
which
not
is
a black
cool thing.
void. I mean, it's black, but there's all kinds of little polka dots.
There's all the stars there, and the cool thing is about it, you can see it during the day.
Yeah, you can, and
the sunlight washes out all the starlight, so you can't see any stars, just like here on Earth. But then when you look out into deep space away from the sun, it's the darkest black you can imagine, right?
Like, are they just brighter than on Earth, or how would you describe it?
They're brighter, but they're different. A lot of things different about them. One, you don't have the atmospheric distortion, so they don't twinkle, right? So you see lots of points, and you see lots of points, and that literally millions of them. There's The thing about Carl Sagan, billions of stars, there really are billions and billions of stars, and you can see them. In fact, they're so numerous, it's very difficult to pick out the constellations you and I see here on the ground.
Mr. Armstrong, I do realize that when you were on the moon, you had very little time for gazing upwards. But could you tell us something about what the sky actually looks like from the moon, the sun, the earth, the stars, if any, and so on?
The sky is a deep black when viewed from the moon, as it is when viewed from cislunar space, the space between the Earth and the moon. The Earth is the only visible object other than the sun that can be seen, although there have been some reports of seeing planets. I myself did not see planets from the surface, but I suspect they might be visible.
Yeah. So because you can see, because you can see the stars.
Oh yeah.
You know, and pretty much all the time you can see the stars.
Yeah. It's not a black
cool
void.
thing.
I mean, it's black, but there's all kinds of little polka dots.
The Earth is the only visible object other than the sun that can be seen, although...
So you see lots of points, and you see lots of points, and that literally millions of them. You know, there's...
The sunlight washes out all the starlight, so you can't see any stars, just like here on Earth. But then when you look out into deep space away from the sun, it's the darkest black you can imagine, right?
The sky is a deep black when viewed from the moon, as it is when viewed from cislunar space, the space between the Earth and the moon.
And there's more than stars. You can see planets. You can see moons.
You see the gas Magellan clouds of the Milky Way
you see
galaxy.
the Magellanic Clouds.
Magellanic. See, I was.
Yeah.
So, Sergey, I mean, I have to ask people, how is it that they believe the bullshit that has come from NASA, Roscosmos, and the other space agencies? Don't we deserve the truth? Tell me, Sergey, who is it that pays your salary? Who pays for your rockets? Who pays for the Soyuz? Who paid for the ISS? Speaking of things that you should be able to see from the ISS through a telescope if you only had one up there, but I guess you're too busy sending up NFL jerseys, footballs, and gorilla costumes to worry about other things like a telescope. But what about Venus? Yeah, Venus, I just recently, just to show you a little reason why we doubt the space agencies, went to Universe Today to learn a little bit about Venus. So I went to Universe Today, which is pretty respected in the astronomical world. And what did I find? Well, here is a picture of Venus as imaged by the Magellan 10 mission. And it says below it, the planet's inhospitable surface makes exploration difficult. So as we continue to scroll down, we can see some other pictures of rocks. Wow. And they must be real because they have letters and numbers on the bottom of them. From 1975, no doubt. 43 years ago, you sent a craft to Venus, and it took photos in this inhospitable place, and then I guess used its 1975 internet space Wi-Fi to transport these images 25 to 250 million miles or so. Sounds believable. As we keep scrolling, we see another image of Venus. This is the Mariner 10 image, and it's blue. Yeah, blue Venus, even though we scroll back up here and see the other image was red. Yeah, I should just believe whatever you say, right? So I hope you will quickly see why we questioned it all. And Sergey, let me just tell you, your agency, along with NASA, have filled the heads of the public with lies, with distorted truths, with fisheye lenses, and impossible feats that we are all supposed to believe just because you say so. So let's take a quick look at this article, make a few comments, and then maybe look at some of the readers' comments, and I have a few remarks on those as well. So the article is titled, "How Can Anyone Believe This Bullshit? Russian Astronaut Slams Flat Earth Theory." Again, you're pictured next to a drawing, which is definitely proof of everything that you say. The article is poorly written. I'm hoping it has something to do with translation. But it basically says that the Flat Earth theory has been growing in popularity exponentially of late, with celebrity endorsements including basketballer Kyrie Irving and cricketer Freddie Flintoff. It then says that Russian cosmonaut Sergey Ryazansky had this to say, said the prevalence of the pseudoscientific theory is due to poor education in the West. Yeah, that's probably the reason. He said people won't believe in any proof. It's all originated in the West, perhaps because they are not taught the deep foundations of sciences, namely of physics, like in this country. He said, I am sorry to hear it's echoing in Russia as well. I have no idea how one can come to believe all this bullshit. Mr. Ryazansky said the theory is about internet trolling and having people on. He added, when it comes to Flat Earth, this is again the spirit of our time. It's so easy to troll a public figure, pardon me, on the internet. He goes on to say, you are far away from him or her. They can't wipe your nose, even if there is reason to do so, and they can easily be insulted. I personally take Flat Earth theory as a perfect, massive space trolling. Nothing more. There's nothing serious behind it. It is just about playing a trick, waiting for what will come next, whether this or that cosmonaut will respond. Scroll down a little bit here. I never get involved in it on social media, as it's a shame to spend my precious time there explaining elementary physics to people. The astronaut said the reason people use pseudonyms is to hide how dull they are. He concluded, on the other hand, why not, since one is striving to play jokes and they do it on the internet. You have perhaps noticed that these users are most often nicknames, since it takes a certain courage to acknowledge that you are dull. Mr. Ryazansky is known to have partaken in 2 space flights, having entered open space 4 times in his space career. Well now, Mr. Ryazansky, let me tell you a little secret. Most of the flat earthers I know, and definitely the ones speaking out about it on the internet, use their real names. I use my real name. Guess who uses fake names? Globe believers. The loudmouth know-it-alls who say they provide real honest experiments, the ones who use cool hard logic to soundly debunk the flat earth, that are oh so transparent, calling others frauds, and all the while, they are so transparent that they hide their rhetoric behind fake names, not revealing who they really are. So your theory is absolutely incorrect. The article continues, his spacecraft, the Soyuz MSO-5, finalized its 139-day ISS program and safely returned from orbit on December 14, 2017. We'll cover that shortly. Despite photographic evidence from space, and even though a spherical globe was postulated as early as the 5th century BC by the Greek philosopher Aristotle, adherents to the flat earth theory are growing in number. Data from Google Trends show that in the past 2 years, searches for the flat earth have more than tripled. Guarantee it's more than that. There have been several instances of high-profile celebrity endorsements, outrageous stunts to promote the theory, and media covering of the flat earth events that have helped promote the cause. A self-taught rocket scientist constructed a homemade rocket out of scrap metal in order to prove astronauts lied about the planet being flat. That is completely, totally, 100% untrue. He simply built a rocket, and on the side of it, it said, research flat earth. He's a stunt man. He was doing a stunt, not meant to prove anything or show anything. That is all just media propaganda, of course. The article continues, Mad Mike Hughes planned to launch himself 1,800 feet and fly through the air at 500 miles per hour in his steam-powered vessel made of scrap metal, but he had to abandon the launch after the U.S. Bureau of Land Management reportedly stopped him from using public land after reading about his plans in the media. Also, fanatics attended a sellout Flat Earth International conference to discuss everything from NASA lies to 9/11 conspiracies. Flat Earthers believe NASA is lying to the general public in order to conceal a stationary flat planet. The Flat Earth International community explains the community suspect the planet is circular disc shaped that relies on Antarctica to provide an icy wall barrier. Not true. The ice barrier is supported to prevent humans walking off the edge of the Earth. Not true. Flat Earther Mark Sargent told the BBC nobody likes this uncomfortable feeling to be in this tiny ball flying through space in this vast, endless universe. And the article goes on and on. It is a nonsense article. And Sergey Ryazansky, a lot of your little comments here are nonsense as well. Let me show you why. So, tell me this, Cosmonaut. Why is it then that in the 1/6 gravity, the moonwalkers moved slower? Please enlighten us, because at 1/6 the weight, so let's say a 200-pound man with a 100-pound backpack would go from 300 pounds to 50 pounds, but he has the same muscle mass. He should jump 10 to 15 feet in the air. He should leap over the lunar rover. Instead, they acted out on a soundstage and have lied about it for 50 years. Why can't you show water stuck to a spinning ball? Why, if I poured out a bag of Skittles on the ISS, would they not join together and make a sphere? They should. How do we know things are pulled to the center? Can I see one example? So water curves now too, huh? Even though for all time water has been used as our guide to what is level. You even admit it. The water in Australia is level with the water in California. Oh, because we're on a ball, you say, right? Well, not one of us feels the earth is moving. Not one of us feels it's spinning. Actually, if it wasn't 1,000 miles per hour, but it was 1 trillion miles per hour that we were spinning, we still wouldn't feel it. If instead of a figure around the sun at 66,000 miles per hour, we were going 66 trillion miles per hour, we wouldn't know. See, now maybe you can start to see why we have our doubts about you and your space agency. Now, what we're watching here is the lunar lander, the LEM, as it connects with the lunar module. And through each of these turns and flips, where exactly were the astronauts? Inside? Standing? Floating? Well, they wouldn't float because they're still under gravity attraction from the moon. So when they take off and yell, "Pitch over," did they fall on top of each other? Did they press a bunch of buttons? No, of course not, because it's all done with models. There's nothing real here. Speaking of nothing real, let's watch when Sergey Ryazansky returns from the ISS to Earth. But first, let's watch them be good planetary citizens and dump the LEM back onto the moon. So now, this is from just recently when Sergey and his little Cosmonaut friends jumped in the Soyuz and returned to Earth. Sergey, wave hi to everyone. Now, you see this little craft here that is nothing more than a model. It's such a joke. Because, Sergey, you're inside there, right? You're inside that middle pod. Do you happen to have any camera footage of that? It's just like we didn't have any camera footage of Neil and Buzz when they were landing on the moon. It seems like you only have camera footage when you want to. It's not all the time. Where's the camera footage from you guys being in this middle pod? It would certainly be interesting to see, since the top pod that you folks can see, that burns up in the atmosphere, completely disintegrates, never seen again. The bottom part and the solar panels burn up in the atmosphere, never to be seen again. But the middle pod, it comes back with 3 humans inside of it. Let's watch this. What a joke we have, what a fraud we see. We pay liars to lie to our faces, example Sergey Ryazansky. They lie about the sphere, they do us in the rear. Oh, how I hope he never burns up in the atmosphere. Bullshit. So let's take a look at a few more reasons to doubt NASA, and there are thousands. So first, let's watch this astronaut on the moon.
Astronauts to the moon.
Thank you. I completely agree, Dan Aykroyd. Look at his shadow here. It's on his right, or our right, which means that the sun would be to the left. Now, here's a pan to the right. This is not edited or spliced. The camera is just panning to the right, but now his shadow is straight ahead, or rather about 1 o'clock. Get a little zoom here. He does a little dance. Now he starts moving again. We pan to the right, and his shadow is now on the left. This is what the French call impossible. It is a total joke. It is a fraud. If you believe that man has walked on the moon, how? Why? It is the most insane belief that any rational thinking human being can have. It's evidence that you've turned your brain over to the Neil deGrasse's, the Bill Nyes, and the other liars like Sergey Ryazansky. Here we see the helium balloon that is the shuttle dancing before it comes to a stop. But I did want to look at a couple of these comments from this article. First comment says, sadly, the flat eartheist people are indicative of what has been going on in the West for quite some time now. The systematic dumbing down of society paralleled with the left liberal agenda, led by the Marxist originators whose intention is to dumb people down enough to accept global totalitarian government where they control everyone and everything. The dumbing down seems to be the most effective where the liberal left have overrun the education systems and where genetically modified food and enforced vaccination is prevalent. This person is actually not too far away from the truth. This guy comes in and explains it to him. They've been dumbing you down with the spinning ball theory. They want you to think we are a random ball in space that came from a big bang. It's all theory. Some guy comes in and says, who stole this bloke's lithium? To which he responds, you are terrible at insults, which he is. The person next says the flat earth is a belief system and is devoid of logic. Yeah, sure. And the spinning ball that none of us can feel, that has the attachment of the atmosphere, and we're flying through space around a sun that's 1,000,000 times bigger than the earth, that is full of logic. It's just so packed full of logic. That's the crazy thing. They would rather that the full history of science is wrong than their belief is correct on the origin of the earth. The fact that they believe that science is one big cover-up and a massive lie is tantamount to the philosophy they adopt. We shouldn't believe everything we're told, but to extrapolate that to shouldn't believe anything from NASA at all is completely hysterical. Here comes another commenter to say crackpots are devoid of all logic because, well, for the most part, ad hominem attacks are all these people have. Someone then says that this guy is deluded for calling himself a doctor, to which the doctor replies, I am a doctor in engineering, so I use science every day. I also have a telescope to see distant galaxies and stars. I also ask my own questions. I get my own answers. I research, and yes, I have researched Flat Earth comprehensively because it asks an important question. But the Flat Earth answer is wrong in my opinion. He goes on to say that he deals only in facts. He answers his own questions, but says, I'm not a yes man, but I believe Flat Earth is false, and you make up lies to justify your belief. The other guy comes back and says he has a Celestron Astromaster and a Nikon P900, and the doctor responds, well, I suggest you use them. He continues on saying that the Flat Earth is wrong, just as is the 6,000-year-old Earth, and there lies a huge problem. For Mr. Asks His Own Questions, he believes that Flat Earth means a 6,000-year-old Earth, which is incorrect, just as to assume that the Flat Earth is a Christian movement. Just because the idea of a stationary and flat Earth can be found in the Bible does not in and of itself make the Bible true. Just as if the story of the three bears and Goldilocks, if it also took place on a flat and stationary Earth, and then we found out that the Earth was in fact flat and motionless, that wouldn't make the story of Goldilocks and the three bears true either. The doctor here says that he uses his telescope to look at distant galaxies and stars, but my question is, how do we know how far these things are away from us? Let's take a look at this image here. Now, I could tell you that these two star systems are 25 trillion miles apart, and you might believe me. But what if I then told you that this is actually a microscope looking at the cells of the human brain? Different story altogether, right? Well, what is the difference between a telescope and a microscope? One looks in the sky, one doesn't. So we understand that when we look at a leaf under a microscope, we're not seeing farther, yet when we look through a telescope, much like the doctor says he does, we just assume that we are all of a sudden looking farther. Not even just farther, but back in time. This is the crazy idea that the entirety of the heliocentric world is founded upon, that the stars are an infinite distance away, and that they are huge. But where's the proof of any of this? Do you really think you can see 25 trillion miles, even up to several quadrillion miles, with your naked eye? If you do, well, you do so because someone told you. That doesn't make it true at all. The doctor comes back here and says, the density of stars visible through a telescope probably ends the lie that man was created specifically by a god. And there you have it. With one lie about how far away the stars actually are, they were able to remove this person's idea of God. But remember, he is not a yes man. He searches for his own answers and asks his own questions. Or does he? There are so many things that should tell us something is wrong. Very wrong. Go to Gigapan and search through the images there. Here's an image from Vera Playa in Spain. And when we zoom in here, we can actually see this background range of mountains here, which is 60 miles away. At 60 miles, 2,000 feet should be hidden. Well, guess what? None of these ranges is over 1,500 feet tall. So how can we see any of it? And you can find these types of instances everywhere. For example, the Peak of Canigou from Aloche, France. 163 miles away, the Peak of Canigou is 8,500 feet high, and at 1,000 feet of observation height and across 163 miles, we should be seeing 10,000 feet blocked by the curvature of the Earth. Yet, is that what we see? No, clearly we see these mountains. And it should be blocked to the point where we can't see any of these peaks at all. You'll have people come along who will say that we should see the beach or the base of these mountains, and that just isn't true. Look into atmospheric magnification and how the atmosphere acts above bodies of water and acts as a magnifying glass or a magnifying lens. But you'll see people run in and try and tell you it's refraction, which again has not been proven, or it's a mirage. It's the bending of light that causes these mountain peaks to be lifted up and placed right at the horizon for us to see. It's simply a crazy belief. So Sergey, while you might ask the question as to how anyone can believe this bullshit, I ask the same question. The space agencies have been everything but transparent. They tell lies and push a model that continues to be disproven over and over again. These mountain ranges are not being lifted up and shown higher than they really are. Let's say for a second that they were. Well then, the water is also being lifted up and shown higher than it is. And this defeats your entire idea that things are being shown behind any curvature at all. It could just be refraction, right? It's the lifting of the water and placing it higher than it really is. And hence displaying things behind this so-called curvature. Well, I agree. Sergey, how can anyone believe this bullshit? I found this recent article that Russia plans on placing a luxury hotel on the ISS. And you dare ask the question how anyone can believe in the flat Earth? I mean, how do people keep buying into your space fantasy of orbiting hotels? I mean, come on, ask Richard Branson how many people he has placed into orbit. Ask Elon Musk. Here we see a shuttle launch, and as always, the scene will cut to a different view entirely. One looking fairly realistic, the second one is an utter joke. We'll watch it another time, just so we can see that everything looks like it's pretty realistic here. And then we'll see that when it separates, of course, we get the CGI version, which completely looks like it's animated, doesn't look real at all. Why do we always have this moment where we go from what looks to be slightly realistic to insanely computer generated? Why, Sergey? Do tell. So, Sergey, please explain how with $52 million a day, all you can provide the world is CGI planets like this and fake images of Saturn like this. I mean, honestly, are we supposed to believe that that is Earth from Saturn? And that this image is a picture of the Earth and the Moon? Then we get to these circular planet images, and they don't even resemble spheres at all. Clearly, they are just drawings, just graphics, not reality. So why is it that you guys are so afraid of showing people what the Earth really looks like? Someone needs to tell the CGI artist on this image that there is clearly a problem, as places like Bulgaria, Turkey, Romania, Hungary, the Ukraine, Poland, Latvia, Estonia, Finland, Sweden, Norway, Svalbard, and more share a time zone with Africa and can't be in the dark, as this image seems to show. So much of the imagery that we see from space is clearly fabrication. Like this view here, which was taken, I guess, on the one and only day in history that no clouds existed. So why is it that every time we get images from space do we have to use a fisheye lens? It really looks like you're afraid of showing something. Why do you have to alter images from space to match what we were all taught in school at such a young age that we had no choice but to believe it? Why, when someone does question it, are we called morons for daring to question the shape of the Earth? Well, Sergey, when I see videos like this, clearly showing the ball image of Earth, it's nothing but a lens effect, then I have every right to question this bullshit. Newsflash, Sergey. People don't want to see Earth wrapped up like a ball. They want to see the truth. If the Earth is a ball, then show it, and clearly it will be shown as a ball. But to always use GoPro lenses to show the Earth as a ball doesn't make a lot of sense. If the Earth is a ball, show real images of the Earth, and it will be a ball. When you use GoPro lenses in every single case, it looks fishy. I mean, here on the screen, you'll see that I keep pausing this image when it's reversed. Now the Earth is concave. So what is supposed to be the truth here, and why are you guys afraid to show it? To me, it looks like somebody has a huge fascination with spheres. Everything must be a sphere. Here we see the famous Felix Baumgartner Red Bull jump, with the ball below him consisting of Nevada only. Clearly, this is an altered image, and again, I ask, why are you afraid of reality? It's just like your cupola window there on the ISS, which is clearly shaped to show the Earth as a sphere. You do understand that, right? Tell me, Sergey, what should our attitude be towards patches like these? Clearly occult symbology. There you've got the 3 dragons. You've got the devil here with Get Your Kicks on 66. What should our attitude be towards these patches? Here's one with the phoenix. Next we have the one with the upside down star. Are you telling me, Sergey, that no one knows what the pentagram stands for? Is this just a surprise to you? Here's a patch, We Own the Night. Here's another one, The Cat's Out of the Bag. Here's another with some sort of wizard at the top of the pyramid Earth. I'm not even sure what's going on there. You got another one with the bull, as if we don't know what that symbolizes. And here's some of the Illuminati and Freemasonic designs, which are clear, showing the Eye of Ra, showing the pyramid, the capstone, and culminating with this patch, which is as obvious as it can get, what's being shown here. Here we have a patch that says No Country Too Sovereign, which is interesting. I'm sure other people love to hear that one. We've got this one here, A Lifetime of Silence Behind the Green Door. That's always good to tell people who are the ones financing all of your work. We've got this one with a dragon holding the Earth. We've got even more obvious ones like this one here called Project Zipper. We make threats, not promises. And of course the zippered mouth. How about this one? Don't ask. NOYFB, which if you don't know what that stands for, it stands for none of your effing business. How about this one here? Nunquam ante nunquam interim. Never before, never again. And you've got the 3 snakes holding the Earth. Do we really need to be any more obvious than that? Then you see images like this one, which is an official NASA image. I mean, how much more do we need to see to realize fabrication is going on here? We already know that all satellites are basically taken up by balloons. That's, now starting to come out. You've got images like this. What exactly is going on here, and where are they? Who knows? What about the images from astronauts going back as long as astronauts have been around, always doing this hear no evil, see no evil, speak no evil pose, which certainly, says a lot. So I think ultimately what it comes down to is we could look at the Nuremberg trials and know that 19 Nazis were convicted at the Nuremberg trials. The others created the CIA, NASA, Big Pharma, and infiltrated every area of the U.S. government. Do you think we should just drop that, forget all about it, pretend like it didn't happen? Or should we realize who it is at the helm of NASA and these other big letter agencies? We even know why you lie to humanity when we hear comments like this.
There are some people who have been so inspired by the achievement of what was thought to be impossible that they are now prepared to lift their own sights and believe that it is possible, let's say, to eliminate poverty, if you like, to eliminate tyranny. But still, anything that liberates the human spirit or causes people to believe that hope is worth cherishing is in itself a very significant human contribution.
Well, despite what your handlers tell you, Sergey, lying to the human race is not an important contribution to humanity. It's a disgrace. We didn't go to the moon. It's obvious. How long are you going to allow little parrots to run around calling other people names simply because they can see through the lies. Future generations will laugh at ours because of you, Sergey. You think it's for the better. You will decide what people believe and what they don't. Well, Sergey, you said it earlier that this belief is done by people making a joke, using screen names, and is not a true belief. Well, here I am, open to a debate that matches your schedule. My name is Jaron Campanella. I'm very real. That's my real name. I'm not hiding behind anything. I'm ready to discuss with you the many issues I have with your space propaganda machine. So rather than say that you can't see how anyone can believe this bullshit, why don't you find out why we do? Have a discussion. Something that NASA, Roscosmos, Neil Tyson, Bill Nye, Michio Kaku all have failed to do. Find out why we don't believe in your space fantasy, and then prove that what you say is the truth, or get out of the way. The time for liars is over. Because just like the title of the article, I too can no longer see any way, no rhyme, no reason, how anyone in the world can believe the space agencies or you. Prove me wrong. Go for it. I'm right here. If the globe is so true, then it should be easy to provide the evidence needed. Take a GoPro non-fisheye lens with you on your next launch. Attach one inside the Soyuz with you when you dock, or when you separate. I mean, with just 1 million of the 52 million that you get every day, you could buy 2,000 GoPro-like mini cameras and include one everywhere. Why isn't there one on every satellite? Why not throw a GoPro into orbit? So don't say that we don't believe any proofs. It just so happens that words don't count as proof. Provide the proof, and I'll believe it. So prove me wrong, or I will continue to call your entire universe exactly what it appears to be. Bullshit. Be kind, don't lie, and open your mind and find your own truth. Till next time, this has been Jeranism. Peace. Hey guys, if you appreciate these videos and want to see me make more, please consider a donation, either paypal.me/Jaron or at patreon.com/Jeranism. Your support will help me spend more time on research and more and better quality videos. Huge thank you to those who are already my patrons. You guys are awesome. And if you can't support monetarily, please share my videos if you enjoy them. Thanks again. Peace.